Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me tonight for Musical Mondays or Monday Night Live, the video where I get to share a little bit about my lessons from the week, all of my K-5 lessons from the week, and a special highlight of one specific grade. My name is David Rao, and I'm the music teacher who blogs at MakeMomentsMatter.org. You can also find my ideas obviously on Facebook or Instagram if you're streaming in either place. I'm also on YouTube, and my podcast is on Spotify and Google Play, and I try and share wherever I can so that people can get resources whenever and wherever they need them. So you can always find my resources when you look on my website, MakeMomentsMatter.org, or through social media and other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter Music Education. So I'm very excited to share with you tonight a little bit about my lessons for the week, all of my K-5 lessons for the week, and then I'm going to do a deep dive on kindergarten, and I'm going to share my kindergarten lessons, the props I'm using, and all the ideas I'm using, and hopefully that is beneficial for you. Before I do that, I want to share just a little bit about a couple things that have happened in the last week, or a couple weeks. In the last 2 weeks, I put out 2 new videos from my classroom, like actually in my classroom, not like in my home office. But from my classroom, where I share a little bit about hand drums and how I use hand drums in my classroom with kindergarten and first grade, and also about how I use tone blocks with kindergarten, first and second grade, and how I sort of incorporate that, all of the procedures I use, the wording I use, and sort of the structure of how I introduce those and use those with my classes. I've already gotten some feedback from some of you about how you've used those ideas in your classroom. Awesome! I hope that it's helpful. But I've shared those videos and they're in the video archive. So if you want to go back and see, oh, hey, how's he using hand drums or how's he using tone blocks? You can do that. And I also put a link in this week's show notes from Instagram. If you go to my profile and click on Musical Mondays Recap, you can find all those links on my blog. From Facebook, there should be a direct link in the caption for this video that'll go right to the recap page. Anyway, those videos are there if you want them. I know a lot of people, it's always nice to have more ideas about how you incorporate instruments, how you get started in class, and some of the procedures you might use there. So that's why I recorded those videos. Hopefully I'll get to do a couple more in my classroom soon, but I wanted to let you all know, if you haven't seen them, they're there if you want them. One of the other things I wanted to share with you was some new resources that I just put out. Because I think some of you might be in the same boat as me, and so I wanted to share about these resources so you knew what they were and why they were there. So I am notorious for going to the dollar spot at Target and buying these little erasers. As you can sort of see, I buy them because it's like $1 a bag, and they're like so cute. Like, look, this one is like little cats, Frankenstein cats. Okay, super sweet, and then the little cats in other colors. And then I got one of like pumpkins. Okay, and then also these are just little Frankenstein people. So I go and buy those like every season. And I always buy them with the intention of like, oh my gosh, I could use those in centers. And then I have never been able to figure out like how should I use those in an effective way. And then by the time I like have an idea, they're all gone at the dollar spot and I only have like one bag of each. So like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? So I came up with some ideas this week and I wanted to share like how I'm using them. So one of the things that I've been doing is I thought, I had this idea of like, if I used on the treble clef, if I had like images with words, like how cool would that be? And you could like have kids take the erasers and let me dump some out here and like physically like manipulate them and put them like actually on the spot. And for some kids, that physical tactile moving them there is enough. And so I sort of created some of these thinking like, hey, this would be a cool thing you could do. Well, then that snowballed because like once I get an idea, I like kept going with it. So let me show you sort of what I made, not because you have to, get these or use these, but just so you can sort of see. So I don't know if you can really see this, but hopefully you can like sort of see. I don't know. This always happens. Let me swing these guys around so you can see this just a little bit better. And then you can also see my messy office. It's been a weird week, so just let me turn this around so you can see a little bit better. Okay, so basically, I took this idea and I was like, oh man, I could do this, and then also this, and then also this, and then also this. So these are some of the little worksheets that I made to go with it, and these are prompts so that when kids get I'm calling them challenge cards, and the challenge cards are these pages, right? So when they get these challenge cards, then they'll have a little worksheet with them go find the one that spells ace, go find the one that spells babe. And then they have to go in and they have to either using a card like this with no acorns or leaves or anything, just a blank card, and they have to spell it out. So that's what this worksheet would be. Or they could find the one with the leaves or the acorns that matches, but without the letters. So they have to find it and notate it. So that was one of the first ideas I had. Then I thought, okay, then I could have the words spelled out and they could match with color because I love color coding and I'm a nerd. Okay, so then they could find all the blue cards. They'd pull all the blue cards and they would have to, once they had identified, oh, I found the blue card that spells ace. Well, these aren't printed out, but they could take this and sort of put that over that. And then also on the card itself, they could actually, they could actually put the thing over the note. Okay, so another option, right? So then I thought, okay, well then I could also have them do the reverse, where they take the challenge card and then they have to notate it on the worksheet, which is cool. And then if you laminate their worksheet, they could just use it forever and ever, over and over. Or you could print them out in black and white or print them out in color if you're really fancy. And kids could take the challenge card and sort of write the word they found onto the worksheet. So what you're seeing right now is what one of the worksheets would look like. And again, I sort of color-coded it so that on the left, they would pull all the green challenge cards. On the right, they'd pull all the purple challenge cards. And that sort of helps you break it down. You could make 4 sets of stations out of this because there are 4 different colors. So you could have, in your stations, one would be all green, one would be all purple, one would be all blue, etc., etc. So then here are what the challenge cards look like. These are the ones with the letters on them. So these with a couple of the different ideas. And this is, again, they can either cover it up with the erasers or they can use that for the worksheets. Here's the challenge cards without the letters. There's a version of both in the set, so you can use them for either way. And then also included, I have, basically it ended up being 5 different versions of lessons, right? Because it just kept snowballing. I was like, well, you could also do this. Well, you could also do this. Well, if you're going to print those challenge cards, what else could you do? I mean, you're going to print them and laminate them, so why not have another activity to go with it? So I kept writing in my ideas. So these pages are the ideas of what could you do with them, with sort of a picture and an explanation so that you're not reinventing the wheel when you print them off and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do with them. So I wrote in all my ideas so that hopefully that'd be a little bit helpful because, if you get the resource and you're like, oh, cool, but what exactly should I do with it? I want you to have some ideas. So I came up with basically 5 different ideas for the resources. You could probably do a lot more with them. You could even you could use them with whole group or small group or individual. So I just want to sort of show you what those look like. And then let me show you one more thing. I'm going to flip these cameras around and let me see if I can show you one more thing. So the idea is sort of that if you get them and print them, you can use them for a ton of different things. From small group to individual to really whatever, right? So then I also thought, well, what if you don't have erasers? Okay, so I have another option because not only did I buy all those erasers, but I'm also notorious for going to the Dollar Tree and buying these cute little flat marbles, right? So they're really cute. You can buy them. Well, these ones are all sort of snowy colors, so I'm going to use these for the winter. You can also buy them in purples, right? You can buy them in greens and blues and oranges. You get them for $1 at the Dollar Tree. You could absolutely use those with these worksheets. You could use rocks. You could use bottle caps. You could use pieces of cutout paper. You could use counters that come with bingo sets. You could use anything really. And so if you want, the resource is there, and then you can take it and reuse it 18 different ways. So anyway, that's what I've been working on the last couple days. I just wanted to share it because it's something I'm going to be using in my classroom really soon. But also, if you want it, it's there, and hopefully you can use it and reuse it and reuse it and reuse it and reuse it in a lot of different ways. So I'm the kind of person where I'm print once, use 1,000 different times. So that's sort of what I wanted to share with you. And right now, those are on TPT on my page, and they're half off for the next day. So they're $2. You can get, there's a Halloween, there's a Thanksgiving, there's a Christmas, but you get 80 different challenge cards. So if you get it, you can use it for a ton of different things. But anyway, I just want to share that with you because that's something that I've just spent a lot of time making and thinking about and getting ideas of how could I use it. if you think of other ways that you could use those cards, let me know and I'll add it into the set and add those ideas so that other people can benefit from it. But like I said, I'm the kind of person who buys all of these and then don't have an idea like what to do. So this was my big idea of what I would do. And then I realized I could use marbles. Then I realized I could use whatever else that I've been hoarding for a while. So why not use them? Anyway, wanted to share that with you. And like I said, there's a link to that in the show notes on the video page if you're interested. Okay, so this week I'm going to do a quick rundown of all my kindergarten through 5th grade lessons. And then I'm going to focus just on kindergarten, all my lessons for the week, and show you some of the things that I use and how I use them. And it's one of my favorite lessons for the whole year. And so I'm so excited to share it with you. It's 5 little pumpkins sitting on a gate, and like it's one of my favorite things ever. And kindergartners love it. So just want to share with you how I do it. It might be different than how you do it, or maybe you've never done it and you should do it immediately. But we'll get to that in just a second. So let me do a quick rundown of all my lessons for the week and then share with you about kindergarten. I'm going to skip over the kindergarten rundown right now because I'm going to spend the deep dive on that. So I'll spare you the quick rundown so I can do a full rundown later. So I'm going to start with 1st grade. 1st grade, we come in, we do our circle, we do our copycat game. And in the copycat, we say the poem, we do an echo response where I do it, they do it, I do it, they do it, I do it, they do it, I do it, they do it. Usually 4 examples, and then we'll do the poem again. And then we do another echo response. The echoes that I'm using this week, I do patting echo, all pats. So then they echo, and then they echo, okay? I do a vocal glide, vocal exploration a little bit. We do the poem. I do, this week I'm adding back in solfege because it's something we haven't done hardly at all this year, and they already know some syllables from last year, so I'm just sort of using it as a recap. This is my quick way to sort of be like, hey, remember this thing? And it's sort of prepping them so that we can use it more in depth later. So we do that, and then another copycat, and then this week we added in tone blocks. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I did a whole live video about how I use tone blocks in this specific activity with kindergarten and 1st grade and 2nd grade. So if you're interested in the exact procedure of how I do that, I won't send you, or I won't elaborate on it right now because I want you to enjoy this video and not, like, if you've already watched that one, like, have a replay now. So like I said, that's linked in the video notes if you're interested, but I talk all about that. So we do our copycat with our tone blocks, and then I pull out one of my favorite books that my friend Amy Fenton introduced me to. It's called The Little Old Lady Who Is Not Afraid of Anything. It's a fantastic book, and I cannot remember the author right now because, of course, I can't because I'm on a live video and I can't remember it. But I'll link that in the show notes. It's just a really fun book that adds in a new character with every page. And then what I do to make it musical is once we've read through the book once, each one of the characters gets an instrument. And again, this is my friend Amy Fenton's idea, or at least she shared it with me. Linda Williams is the author. Thanks, Kimberly. And it's just so easy to add in an instrument for each part because it's parts of a scarecrow that build up to a scarecrow. And of course, the little old lady who is not afraid of anything was not afraid of them. But kids love that they get to be different parts of the scarecrow and they get to represent those parts with a musical instrument. And it's just so much fun and so easy to do. And you can find that book probably in your library, or probably a classroom teacher has it. I always get worried that the classroom teachers are going to read it to their kids before I get to read it to kids, because the end is sort of like a fun reveal that it's actually a scarecrow, and the kids don't usually know that unless they've read it before. So I'm always like, please don't read it, please don't read it. And then I get to read it with kids. Super fun book. Also, I love that the little old lady isn't afraid of anything, that she's just like brave and courageous and on her own and having so much fun. And I think that's just a cool image to leave with kids. That really takes up the whole lesson, because if you read through the book once and then you introduce the instruments, you talk about how they're connected to the characters, and then you read through it with the kids playing the different instruments, there's not a lot more time. You could maybe rotate kids to a different instrument and try it again, but it's a lot of time and it's a lot of logistics. I shared on my Instagram stories this week about how I use just a long piece of fabric to cover up instruments I'm not ready to use at the beginning of class. Because if kids walk in and they see a bunch of instruments set out, their brain is immediately going to that. So the instruments are really the end of my lesson, like the last 15 minutes. And so, or maybe 20 minutes. And so I don't want kids to just fixate only on that. So I cover up those instruments with a long sheet of fabric. It actually was a bulletin board backing piece of fabric years ago when I had this like super long bulletin board. I just haven't cut it up and used it for other things. So it's perfect to like have 6 different instruments, and I just cover up all the instruments, and so that kids don't just fixate on that for the whole lesson. But it's a fun reveal when I'm like, I think some instruments should go with this story, and so I pull off the sheet, and they're like, wow, those instruments are sitting there. They have been there the whole time, and it's fun for the kids to do that and to see that. So that's The Little Old Lady Who's Not Afraid of Anything by Linda Williams. And you should check it out. I'm sure there's a lesson plan online for it, but if you just get the book, the lesson sort of does itself. It's a great lesson. Second grade, we again start with our circle song when they come in. They make their circle, we do our copycat game, we go back and forth, and the things that I introduce in between the poem, so it's poem, echo, poem, echo, poem, echo. The echoes this time are padding, solfege, vocal exploration, and then we get to tone blocks, which again, I told you I did a whole video about that, so if you're interested in that, you can go check that out. Then in the last lesson, we did the song Down the River. The river is up, yeah, so it's a super fun little folk song, and the kids love it. So it has a really fun dance and a fun movement, so we do that as sort of a recap for them to remember and to get back into feeling comfortable doing the long way set dance. It was not super easy the first time, so now they feel like pros that they get to do it again and maybe do it with a different partner. That song, I really use the direct lesson from As Easy as Apple Pie by Jeff Krisky and Randy DeLellis, who are the brains behind the Game Plan curriculum series. I've already shared that book once in these live videos. It's a fantastic book, so if you don't have it, you should go check it out. But the lesson I use comes directly from that book. And then in the time remaining, we go back to Note Neighborhood, which we did a couple weeks ago. They did an introduction of Note Neighborhood a couple weeks ago, and so what we do in this lesson is we do, with all of my Note Neighborhood resources, I have like an introduction PowerPoint where it introduces the new concept. So maybe that's quarter rest, or maybe it's half note, or half rest, or dotted quarter note, or whatever. And the first PowerPoint introduces that, and then there's always a secondary PowerPoint that practices it. So in this lesson, we do the practice of the quarter rest. And in this lesson, basically the quarter note and eighth note and quarter rest are hiding from the sassy half note. And in doing that, they like climb up a tree and they're hiding from her, and the kids think that's hilarious. But what's really fun is that they end up reading rhythms. They read a bunch of rhythms in different orders. They end up reading 2 lines, so they use a top branch and a lower branch. And the notes actually flip themselves upside down. So they see, for the first time for these kiddos, a quarter note upside down with the stem pointing down. And for a lot of kids, they're like, that's wrong. And like, actually, no, Todd just said he can hang like that. And so it's cool that they can see notes right side up and upside down. There's a quick, tiny baby introduction of a staff in that one. But mostly it's just a chance for them to practice the quarter rest, reading it and reading it in context. And then they get 2 lines and it's longer rhythms. So they love that. They love anything Note Neighborhood. And if I have an extra minute or two at the end of each of the Note Neighborhoods PowerPoints, there's a practice slide that has 8 different measures of reading. So we could read, it's 8 measures. So we can read all the way across the top line, second line, third line, fourth line. We could read the whole thing. We could read portions or whatever. And the nice thing about having that page at the very end of the slide, or the slideshow, is that you can use it or not, or use it in a long extension, or use it in a short extension, or use it however you want. But that's at the end of every Note Neighborhood PowerPoint. And you can sort of just play around with that however you want. If you're like, what's the Note Neighborhood? And you don't know, it's something I created to help introduce note values to my students through stories. And there's a whole set of them that are free that introduce the quarter note and eighth note. So if you're interested and you're like, oh, what's that? I would like to think about it before I really implement it with kids. There's a scope and sequence, and then a free set of introducing and then practicing PowerPoints on my Teachers Pay Teachers store, and I'll try and link that at the end of this video. So that's what I do with second grade, is the quarter rest PowerPoint and the practice PowerPoint. Third grade is getting ready for our concert, which is coming up far too quickly. It's so weird. We have a day off for elections next week. I'm gone 2 days for National AOSA, American Orchestral Work Association National Conference next week in Cincinnati. So I'm gone for a couple days. There's something else that's happening in the next couple days. It's like just so much happening. And so there's not enough time. But in this specific lesson, we do a few recaps from the last time. We finish Over the River and Through the Woods. We're doing 2 verses, a grandfather verse and a grandmother verse. And in between each verse, it's going to be crazy, but I hope it works. The whole 3rd grade is going to turn on the risers, and we're going to pretend to be one huge sleigh. And I'm going to call out like hazards in the road as I'm like vamping on the piano. And they're like, going along in the sleigh. And I'm going to say like, swerve left. And they're all going to go like this and swerve right. Or like, oh no, the river. And they're all going to like jump and hopefully do the wave. I don't know. I'm hoping it's going to work. But it means that I can take 2 verses from the song, do an ABA form, and then have a little sort of movement interlude in between each verse. And I hope it works out. I think in my head, it's going to be amazing. We'll see how it works with kids. But the nice thing is they just have to learn the 2 verses, and then we add in that fun little movement in between, and hopefully it'll extend the song, and parents will think it's super fun. So we finished that today, Over the River and Through the Woods. That's coming up for our Thanksgiving program. And we learn a song from Music K8 called Gratitude Attitude. I've used this probably in 4 different programs over the last 8 years, and I think it's just fabulous. You can teach it in 20 minutes. It has student solos, it has super fun music and a backing track, and it's not expensive on their website, and it's just a super fun song. I'll link that one in the video notes as well. But it is just super fun to do with the kids, and it's always a crowd pleaser, like always a crowd pleaser. I have never had a parent come up and be like, well, that song's sort of boring. No, like they all always love it. So that concert's coming up very quick. If you'd like to send me a please don't stress out note, that'd be great in the next week or so, but that concert's coming up. My 4th grade concert's also coming up, so my 4th graders were also learning, we're doing a holiday musical by John Jacobson and his writing counterpart, whose name I can't think of right now, John Higgins maybe? No, that's not it. I'm making things up. But it's a really great show, holiday musical, and so we've learned 2 songs already. We've learned Everybody Can Sing. We've learned I Could Fly. So we do a quick recap of both of those just so they remember. Because remember, I'm on an 8-day schedule. I see kids basically every 2 weeks, the way things are running these days. And so they need a chance to recap that. Otherwise, if they don't interact with that material for a full month, they'll forget it. So we do a really quick recap. I give them some rehearsal notes basically of, oh, that was great, but change this, or that was great, but this can be louder, or whatever. Don't forget this harmony. And then we introduce a new verse for a new song, one of the bigger songs. So we just get to 1 verse of that. That's 4th grade. And then again, 5th grade, I'm bringing back that As American as Apple Pie book by Krisky and DeLellis. And it's, in this lesson with 5th graders, I do Lost the Farmer's Dairy Key, which is another fun song. You could probably do it with younger grades, but with my kids, the orchestration in this specific version is sort of difficult. They're asking them to do a crossover and a sort of a difficult crossover pattern. So instead of just doing crossover like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're asking them to go bum 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. That's sort of hard, especially for my kids who don't get a lot of instrument time or don't get a lot of music at all, but especially instrument time. So they can use that practice. So it's super fun. It has a rock, paper, scissors game embedded into it and partner stuff. And so it's just a really great lesson. And I really just pulled directly that lesson essentially and process through that with my kids and try and get every kid onto an instrument at least once in the lesson and also do a little bit of partner work at least once in the 45 minutes. That's a lot, but they can do it and they really love it. So that's 5th grade. And like I said, that book by Jeff Krisky and Randy DeLellis it's amazing. You should get it. It's one of my favorite resources, and they're not, like paying me to say this. Like I just really like it, and it's really worth your time. So if you want, I think I put a link to that on the video page a couple weeks back, but I'll try and bring that back. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about kindergarten. So that was my 1st grade through 5th grade lessons. Let me talk about kindergarten specifically and what I do with those kiddos. So when kindergarten comes in, this is the first time for the last 6 lessons we've done a train song at the beginning of class. And the reason I do that for the first half, well, the first quarter of kindergarten is that I want them to stay in their line coming in and learn to like walk in a line basically. And it helps with line procedure because they're working on that and they're, well, I was going to say in their homeroom, but they're working on that anywhere they go. Whenever they go in a line, they're working on the line. So bringing them in a line is great. And then we continue going around. We go around in a circle. We go squiggles through the room. We do all sorts of stuff. But this week is the first time we're not doing a train song. This week they come in and they do my basic circle song, which I do with 1st grade and 2nd grade. And so I say, you need to do what the words tell you to do, and then they come in and they've done the song before, just not as an introductory activity. They've done it when we need to make a circle. Any time in the last 6 lessons that I've had kindergarten, when we make a circle, I sing the song. I don't ask them to sing or like listen to the song. Like I just sing it, and they've sort of learned it like by osmosis in the last couple lessons. But this time I'm very explicit about it. And I start with that and I sing that song and they come in, they follow the words, and at the end, the song tells them to sit down. So it's the first time we've done that, and it's a really easy song with kids. So that's what I start with this week. And then I go into the copycat game, which is pretty new for them. And so the poem for that is copycat, copycat, 1, 2, 3. Do what I do after me. Anything I do, you do the same. That's how you play the copycat game. Now, I've done this at least once before in kindergarten, but they don't remember it so well. So I usually, with kindergarten, I have to like slow it way down and go, copycat, copycat, 1, 2, 3. Do what I do after me. And I can tell that it is familiar because some of them are going, 1, 2, 3, do what? Like you can see that they know some of it and they want to say it with you, but they're not there yet. So I slow it way down. And I add some little hokey actions, but it helps them sort of remember it and get it into their head. So we go through that song, or not song, we go through that poem, and then I do a really basic 4-beat clapping pattern, and then they do it. And then I do another really basic 4-beat clapping pattern, and then they do it. And then another one, and I do 4 of those together, and then we do the poem again. And we say the whole poem again. Mostly I say it, and they try and join in. And then we'll do a vocal exploration. So like, ooh, and then they match, ooh, and then ooh, and they go, ooh. And it's fun when you're doing the vocal explorations to sort of like start embedding in some ideas. So like this class, I did like, and they did, and then I went, boop, 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 and then boop, 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 and they did, and sort of trying to embed the like, tonic, dominant, tonic, connection without talking about it or doing it too much. And so just sort of through our exploration, we do some of that. And I'm not saying like match my pitch or whatever, it's gentle and easy and exploring, but it's going to lead hopefully to the dominant, tonic, dominant, the 5th relationship later on in life. But it's something we can play around with now. So we do a vocal exploration, we do the copycat again, we do padding, and that eventually, once we've copycatted several times, then it leads to the tone block lesson that I told you all about. And I remember I have that video on my videos page if you're interested in seeing all of the tone blocks. But just a couple things about the tone blocks. I've got my little wonderful bag here. Deodor could tell you more about that. But I've got different kinds of tone block in my classroom. And so one of the things that I do, especially with kids, is after we've been playing it a couple times, and I won't go too much into this part of the lesson, but after we've played it several times and they're used to that, I pull out another one. And one of the things that I always try and do as often as I can with kindergarten, 1st grade is comparing and contrasting, because I'm asking them to compare and contrast a lot. I'm asking them to compare and contrast by sight. I'm asking them to compare and contrast by sound. I'm asking them to do that through inferences. And so these are all critical thinking things that really your classroom teachers will love you for taking the time to teach. So we played this one like 3 or 4 times. We've rotated a little bit with this one. all the kids have this specific one, and I pull this one out and I say, raise your hand if you can tell me one of the differences between these two. And so they actually spot quite a few things. Difference in color, this one's darker, this one, the dark brown one is taller, the dark brown one has more ridges. I don't do that because I don't want them to fixate on that. But I mentioned the ridges. Some of them say, oh, this one has ridges on the bottom and this one doesn't, so they're sort of opposites. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, ridges on the, So let's see. So then all different sorts of things. And so then I say, if you're looking at these two, they're pretty different, aren't they? And they're like, yeah, they're pretty different. I say, so do you think they're going to sound exactly the same, or do you think they're going to sound a little bit different? They say they're going to sound a little bit different. So we test it. And then as they predict, they do sound different. And so I play the difference 3 or 4 different times. So again, we're comparing and contrasting sounds. Then I pull out another one and I say, ooh, look, tell me what's the same and what's different. And this time they're mostly saying similarities. They're both brown, they're both tall, they both have ridges, right? So I say, now that if you look at them, do you think they're going to sound the same or they're going to sound different? They say they're going to sound the same. Oh, let's try it. And then this one. And they are confused because they do not sound exactly the same. And I say, you know what, this one, it's a sad story. I had a 3rd grader come in and he took the mallet and went, and he hit it as hard as he could. And now if you look very closely, you'll see that there are some chips and some cracks. It's sort of hard to see, but they're there. And he hit it so hard that it broke. And now it doesn't make a cool sound. The other one sounds a lot better. So when you're playing your tone block, when you're playing your little lighter colored one, don't hit it as hard as you can. You got to be, you have to care about the instrument. And I really like that because, this honestly is sort of useless at this point because it doesn't really sound very good. So I don't really want to use it a lot in class, but it is a great example to kids about how you need to care for instruments and how that caring for instruments is important because it really affects the sound and it affects what they are going to play and what other kids are going to play. And, with kindergartners saying, like, if you break that, other kids in the school can't play it, really doesn't matter to them because they don't have the actual, mental capacity to be able to think about, oh, I need to care about other kids in the school, or my actions are going to affect other kids somewhere else, somewhere. If you're thinking about just their cognitive process, that really is not an effective argument. But if you say some other kid came in and look what they did and now we can't use this, that is effective to them. And so then they're like, oh, so now in the moment, I need to be careful because I might get to play this one again. And if I break it, I don't get to play it again. So it's sort of the reverse of why should you care for the instruments? Because it's important for you and others. But look what this other kid did, and how to, it's just sort of a cool lesson to have with them. And it's great for comparing and contrasting sounds too, but also it's instrument care. So it checks a lot of boxes, and hopefully down the road it'll help my instruments last a little longer. So that's just part of that tone block lesson. Like I said, I have a whole video about how I use the tone blocks, and that's free to stream and watch anytime if you're interested, and the link's in the show notes. So we do our tone block game, and then one of the things I've done to put away is that I say, usually when we rotate is they take the mallet and they stick it inside and they hand it to the person next to them. That's how they rotate. At the very end, I say this time, and I've had every other kid have an instrument and mallet at the same time. So they have their instrument and mallet, the next kid has nothing. Instrument mallet, the next kid has nothing. And it's nice because it cuts down on the sound, but then also they can rotate, and so they're sharing, and they're helping the person next to them and whatever if they don't know the instrument. So that's sort of a cool thing. But at the very end of the lesson, instead of taking the whole thing and passing it or taking the whole thing up to the instrument box to put away, they hand the mallet to the person next to them and they keep the tone block. So the kid with the tone block goes and puts the tone block away. The kid with the mallet, they're sort of sitting there like, well, what am I going to do? And I say, hold it like a balloon. Okay, so they hold it up like this. Now bring your balloon over and put it in the bucket. And remember, the balloon goes on top, so they put it in. And then the head of the mallet comes out on top, which is sort of cool. And so all of them end up exactly in the can the way I want them to. But that's just another sort of fun thing I discovered along the way with these tone blocks to put them away. So that's been really effective in my classroom. After that, I did a video a couple weeks ago on Instagram just asking, how do you do copying sounds? How do you do getting kids to sing with their singing voice? Do you do singing back like, hello, David, hello, Mr. Rowe, hello, Lisa, hello, Mr. Rowe? Do you have them sing back? And one of the cool things, I've been trying a lot of different things. I've been trying, to see what works best with kids, to see what works best with different groups of kids. The teacher across in the hall from me is in the computer lab, and then there's another teacher in my school who's in a STEM lab, and another teacher who's in an iPad lab, and one of them was like, you could be the music lab, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm, music room, I could maybe call it the music lab, and, but I don't really, but this week I've sort of been embracing that, like, it's the music lab, it's the music education lab, and the cool thing about having an 8-day schedule is you can try something with 8 different slight variations to see what is most successful. And that's what I've been trying with my singing back and echoing back for my attendance, is to sing back, they sing, I sing, or they sing, group sings, or they sing with the piano backing, or they sing with a xylophone, I'm playing a xylophone to give them pitches, or no pitches, or, all different things. I've been trying different things, and that's one of the cool things about having multiple sections is you can say like, okay, well, I'm going to do this singing, echoing thing, but let me try it a different way with this group. Let me try it a different way with this group. Maybe I'll try it in a different, they're scattered instead of in a circle, or they're, to just try different things. And it's been cool to see what happens. And some things work for some groups and some worked for others. And so it's just sort of been fun to see how that works in my class, in the music education lab. I don't call it that with kids, but in my head, like I'm thinking that, so it's sort of fun. So then once we've done our copycat, and we've done, which I see people on Facebook trying to figure out the exact wording, Kimberly and Jennifer, it's copycat, 1, 2, 3, do what I do after me, anything I do, you do the same, that's how you play the copycat game. Did not come up with that, heard that from another teacher, who I think heard it from another teacher, who I think heard it from another teacher, or different variations. They're all different. If you look up copycat game online, there are just like 1,000 different ways to do it. That's just the way I do it. And we would say the poem and then do an echo activity. And then we say the poem again, and then we do an echo activity, and then another one. So we've done our copycatting, we've done our tone block stuff, we've done our names back and forth and echoing, and now we get to my favorite part, which is the 5 little pumpkins. So in the previous lesson, I brought them over to my instrument shelves, and on the shelves I had these. And this is, it looks like wrought iron, and it's absolutely not, it's plastic. Okay, but this is the like garden fencing for like a flower bed, right? So I'm not ashamed. Last year at the end of summer, my neighbor was going to recycle this, and I stole it out of her recycle bin. But she didn't need it anymore, and I'm going to use it for my classroom. It was perfect. So I actually got a couple. There were like 3 or 4 of these, and they link together if you want. But it just sits on the shelf in my classroom. What's really cool is also from Target, of course. A couple years ago, I got these little foam pumpkins, and they fit right there inside the shelf, or inside the little gate. So it's perfect because, really it's a fence, not a gate, but then what I can do is I can swing it open, and I say, well, the part of the fence that opens up is called what? And they're like, oh, it's the gate. Okay, great. So it really is a good gate for the kids. So then these little pumpkins fit right in, and you can actually fit them in like in different ways. Because they're foam, they just sort of slide right in, so you can do whatever you want. But I bet these plastic fences, if you're not going to steal it from your neighbor's recycle bin on the curb, I bet you can find them right now at like Home Depot or whatever on sale, because they're trying to get rid of all that garden stuff. But anyway, or I'm sure you get them on Amazon. Amazon has everything. Okay, so anyway, so I have the 5 little pumpkins, and they're sitting on this gate, right? And because I have several of these, I can sort of space them out, and that works for kids. Right. Okay, so in the last class, we learned the poem, and I'll just say the whole poem for you here in case you're not familiar. I also did a blog post about this, so it's available on my blog, and I put a link to that. But the poem goes, 5 little pumpkins sitting on a gate. The first one said, oh my, it's getting late. The second one said, there are witches in the air. The third one said, but we don't care. The fourth one said, let's run and run and run. The fifth one said, I'm ready for some fun. went the wind, and out went the lights, and 5 little pumpkins rolled out of sight. So you can sort of teach that the first time, like as a finger play. You can teach it with these visuals. You can teach it however you want. The first time we did it is we just did it 2 or 3 times. I made sure that they knew the 5 different parts. The first one said, "Oh my, it's getting late." And I have little actions for each of those that I teach kids, the ones I just showed you, so that they, for sure, if nothing else in the whole thing, they internalize what each pumpkin says. And I actually do go back at the end of, saying the poem a couple times. I say, wait, what did the first one say? "Oh my, it's getting late." Yes, exactly right. Okay, wait, what did the second one say? "There are witches in the air." Yes, exactly. Okay. And the third one said, "But we don't care." And I do that with kids. I go through each of the 5 to make sure that they say them multiple times because of what's going to happen in this lesson. So they go through and they say for each one, they know what all 5 of them say. So in this lesson, it's really just a review. So we go back to the gate. I pull out my pumpkins. I put them on the gate. And then the kids say the poem with me. So they say, "The 5 little pumpkins sitting on a gate," and I point. The first one said, and I look at them, and I don't say it this time, I let them fill in. "Oh my, it's getting late." Right. The second one said, "There are witches in the air." Right. And I make sure that kids are able to say it. And if they look a little hesitant, I'll help them, but I let kids say it. So then we go through that and I let kids say the poem. Then I say, you know what? I think my 5 little pumpkins, I think we can make this even more special. So here's what we're going to do. I have, and in my little trick-or-treater jack-o'-lantern, I actually have a bunch of these foam pumpkins. You can get these at Target or Hobby Lobby or wherever, Dollar Tree probably, or something like them. Or you could do die cuts or, cut out a piece of orange construction paper, whatever you want, right? So I have these, and they're nice because they're foam, because kids like to touch them. They can't really rip them all that much, and they're not super flimsy, and they will last forever. These have lasted for years, so get the foam ones if you want them to last. I don't know. They worked for my kids. Hundreds of kids at this point. So I give out 5 pumpkins to 5 different kids, and I say, go sit on the dot carpet on the blue dots. And this big dot carpet sort of dominates the space in my room, and we're sort of off on the side. So 5 kids basically go over and sit crisscross holding this pumpkin. They don't know exactly why yet, but they are going to go sit because they're going to be the 5 little pumpkins. And then I say, this microphone I'm wearing, because I have a little lavalier microphone on all the time, every day. It really saves my voice. It's absolutely worth the money to get one. But I have one on me all the time. I say, and I hold it to my mouth. You know how I wear this microphone? And when I pull it up to my mouth to demonstrate, it's a microphone. They all are like, they see me right away because I'm louder now. I have this microphone, and they're like, and it's so you can hear me better, so that when we're singing or playing, you can hear my voice. Yeah, we get that. Okay, great. Did you know microphones can look very different? Like this one. This is actually a pencil case, which is silly, but it's a pencil case that I got from Walmart, back to school years ago. So silly, but it's a pencil case. So kids are like, ha, 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 that's a fun microphone. I'm like, but yeah, microphones sometimes look like this. When I bought the pencil cases, they actually came in 3 different colors. So silver, the blue, and the pink. So I've used them forever for everything, and now this one's falling apart. It needs a little hot glue or love or magic, I don't know, to put it back together. But I say sometimes microphones look like this. And then I go over to the kids who are sitting holding the pumpkins, and I say, I wonder if this microphone, I have an idea. 5 little pumpkins sitting on a gate. The first one said, and then I hold down the microphone to the kid who's sitting there, and all the other kids, if not instinctually, I sort of give them the clue. They get quiet, and that kid goes, oh my, it's getting late. Ah, how cool. The second one said, there are witches in the air. And I go through for each of the 5, because this is teaching the class that they get to do it on their own. And that's sort of preemptive to what I'm going to do next. But this is my chance for them to go me, kid, whole group, right? I hold it out to everyone. It's the whole group. One kid, it's their solo. Me, it's just me. That teaches the procedure. We go through the whole poem like that once, and then I actually have, with my classroom audio system, I have a microphone that is perfect for kids. So I just switch it on, and then I hold this one up, and kids are like, they can hear my voice now through this microphone. I cover up my lavalier or whatever, and then they actually hear my voice through here, and I say, let's try it with this microphone, and let's see if you can hear the kids a little better. So we do the whole poem, and this time I hold up the actual microphone to the kid's voice, and it is so magical to see those kids say the poem into the real microphone, and also to see the other kids listening, because there's something just really, really powerful about a kid speaking or singing or performing on their own, and is something super, just as powerful, other kids seeing that and appreciating that and watching another kid do it and just hearing that kid's voice or seeing that kid do it. So this is a super great lesson because each kid gets to do one of the 5 parts into the microphone. So I go through kid by kid, and then at the end of the poem, it goes, went the wind and out went the lights and 5 little pumpkins rolled out of sight. So then they take usually the first 10 kids are like, I don't know, do I like toss it and roll it? I'm like, no. Hold it close and then roll to the other end of the carpet. And the kids are like, you can see in their face, they're like, do I really get a roll over there? And yeah, they take the pumpkin and they lay down and they roll all the way to the other end of the rug. And then, it becomes their favorite lesson of all time because they're rolling across the classroom holding their little pumpkin. And they got to speak into a microphone. So as they're doing that, out of my pumpkin, I pull 5 more little foam pumpkins. And I say, great job, little pumpkins, but I think we need more. And I hand out to the kids who haven't gone yet, I hand out 5 more pumpkins, and we repeat the whole process. I go pick up the 5 foam pumpkins from the kids who've already gone so that I then have them, and they're not going to fidget with them while we're doing other kids in the class. I take them back, and I give out 5 more. We do 5 more, 5 more, 5 more, until we get all the way through the class. Usually at the end, there's going to be a group with only like 3 kids when there should be 5 pumpkins. And so I've done a couple different ways. If there are 4 kids, sometimes I will be the 5th pumpkin, which they think is hilarious. If there are 3 or 2 or whatever, I'll usually go choose 3 or 2 or however many you need to add up to 5 kids who have already gone, who've done a great job, or sitting quietly, or paying attention or whatever, and they get to go again. And they think that's amazing. So the 5 little pumpkins, totally worth it. Those foam pumpkins are super cheap. These gates could be free if you find them in your neighbor's recycle bin like I did, or you can get them probably in the clearance section at Walmart or Home Depot or wherever in the garden center, because they're probably clearing out this stuff right now. Or ask at your school and say, like, does anybody have any of that, landscaping fencing you're not using, or could let me borrow for a couple days? And you could probably get it really inexpensive or cheap. Anyway, they love that lesson. Usually that takes almost the end of class, and it depends on my classes, but sometimes I might have 3 minutes at the end of class, sometimes I might have 1. So in some cases it's like, well, let's go line up. In other cases it's like, well, what are we going to do for the next 2 minutes? And this is one of my things I would tell you, if you're a new teacher, always have a backup or always have an extension plan. So what we could do with kids is we could do the 5 little pumpkins all together, and I could just randomly choose a kid to be one of the pumpkins as we go, or I could do the solos, or whatever. That's an option. But I do have 2 backups that I thought I would share with you. So I have this cute little spider puppet, and I like him because he's not scary and not threatening, and for some kids spiders are creepy and not fun, and so this is fun to pull out. And we do the Itsy Bitsy Spider because I'm sort of doing a lot of finger plays with kids. Those are those songs where your fingers act out the story, and so this is a perfect one, especially for Halloween time. But I think the puppet's great because he's not scary and not really threatening and just sort of happy, and so that makes this song super happy and also make spiders less scary for kids. So that's one of my first options, is to just recap. We've already learned it once and done it officially in class, and so we could do the Itsy Bitsy Spider and a couple of variations of that if we wanted. My secondary backup is last year, really, really cheap. I got 40 of these green stress balls just like randomly, and they're just squeezable stress balls. But I was like, I don't know how to use these. I don't know what they're for. And they're also fun because they are color changing depending on the heat of your hand. so like kids think that they're amazing. But if we have a couple minutes left in class, they're sort of like a weird green color and they're fun for Halloween. So we'll take them and we'll do steady beat with them. You can pat them to the steady beat. You can squeeze them to the steady beat. You can bounce them to the steady beat. You can pass them back and forth to the steady beat. You could do that with a musical track. You could just do it with an instrument keeping the beat. You could just do it with yourself keeping the beat. So there's like 1,000 options for it, but this is just another one of those Beat Buddy things that I use. And I got these on super clearance for like no money at all. They were super, super cheap, but I have like a whole basket of them. And so this is another thing that kids think is so fun to have me pull out at the end of class. And I think it's just like, you know, saves my life because I have those 3 minutes that I didn't have the day before with the same lesson. And so I need something. And then this gives me another thing that I can do that kids will love that is curricular and is a great practice. Lisa's asking, do they glow in the black light? I don't know. I don't have a black light. Probably. I mean, they're the right color, right? Like the limey green. I bet they would. I don't know. I'll find a black light and I'll let you know. But they're just super fun to have. So I would say if you are teaching kindergarten and you're new to teaching kindergarten, or even if you're not, have like 2 or 3 backups that you could just pull out at any time that you know that they will like and that'll be fun, sort of successful. One of the reasons that I keep like a song and poem map is so that if they're like 5 minutes at the end of class, I can quickly grab my map of things that I've already done through the year and go like, ooh, we did this song, let's do the song again. Or we did this song 2 months ago, I wonder if you still remember it, let's try. And so to have that sheet there, it's instead of going like, did I teach I'm a Little Teapot? I don't remember. But if you have that written down, that's sort of cool. And so that's a freebie in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. It's a simple little map so you can write down what you taught and when. And you can do it poems or songs or games or whatever. Anyway, but the stress balls are a fun last chance activity, and so is Itsy Bitsy Spider. Those are my 2 that I wrote in this lesson, and actually in the bottom of the lesson, a lot of times I'll put in this very last box, notes, extension, ideas, so that I can, if in the lurch I need to like, what am I gonna do? That's always there for me. So anyway, thanks so much for listening in on my kindergarten lessons. I have to go back and add in a lot of links for y'all, because I did talk about those resources that I created for the treble clef note names that work really well with these little erasers and marbles and things. I'll put the links to that. And a couple other things, the Jeff Krisky and Randy DeLellis book, I'll put the links to that too. If there's anything else that you think like, you said you're going to link that and I didn't, leave me a comment or send me a private message or something and say like, hey, what was that thing? I'd be happy to link that in the video notes too. Okay, I hope you have a great week, and I hope that you have an awesome time, maybe surviving Halloween week. I know this is like a terrible week because they come at like basically with like cupcake frosting all over their face, walk down to music like, hey, we just had our huge party, hope nobody throws up. Like that's usually what happens, and they're like, you know, it looks like their costumes are decaying, not because they're zombies, but because they've just been like super sugared up and they're like coming down to you. So I hope that you have a good time with that on Wednesday. Maybe your school has new parties, good for you. But I hope that you have a really fun time with that, and maybe try the 5 Little Pumpkins song. Again, if you have questions, send me an email. Otherwise, have a great week, and I'll see y'all next week. Thanks so much.